Crayfish and Anchovy team up. Crayfish lived with a large group of other crayfish in a rock pool off the coast. He loved making new friends, but the other crayfish were always too busy finding food on their own. "No time for chatting," they told him. "Everyone has to look after themselves." One day, Crayfish decided to explore the coral reef nearby and met an anchovy. "What are you doing?" asked Crayfish. "I'm looking for plankton," replied Anchovy. Anchovy told Crayfish that anchovies always feed together, and he was making sure that there was enough plankton in this reef for all his friends and family. A large shoal of anchovies swam up to them. "Hey everyone, this is a crayfish," said Anchovy. They all greeted him and asked him lots of questions. "Where do you live? What do you eat? How do you swim?" Crayfish was amazed at how friendly they all were. He watched in awe as the anchovies swam in fast but beautiful formations, laughing and playing and singing and eating plankton all around him. Suddenly, an eel burst out of the coral. It chased the anchovies, but they ducked and dodged and swam away. Crayfish was so shocked that he stood frozen on the spot. Eel saw him and swam right at him. "Run, Crayfish!" shouted Anchovy. So Crayfish rushed through the coral with Eel hot on his tail and launched back into the rock pool. The other crayfish panicked and hid under rocks. Crayfish hid in a small crevice. The eel couldn't get to Crayfish and swam off to look for other food. Crayfish was relieved, but when he got out of the crevice, he found the other crayfish waiting for him. "How dare you bring an eel to our rock pool?" they said. "Leave this place and never come back." So Crayfish set out for the coral reef again and went back to the anchovies. "May I join you?" "Of course," said Anchovy. "From now on, you can be an honorary anchovy." The next day, the other crayfish decided to visit a shipwreck where they had heard was a lot of delicious food. They entered through a porthole and began scavenging. What they didn't know was that Eel was sleeping beside the wreck. When he heard them, he swam up to the opening. "I have got you all now," laughed Eel. The anchovies had also come to the shipwreck to eat and saw the crayfish trapped by Eel. "What should we do?" said Crayfish. "We can't let him eat them." "My family will distract the eel," said Anchovy. "You go and save those crayfish." The anchovies darted forward and swam in circles around Eel's head. He snapped at them and chased them away from the opening. Crayfish scuttled over and led all the other crayfish out of the shipwreck. As they escaped, the anchovies swam past, chased by Eel. "We made a mistake," said Anchovy. "He's too fast. He's going to eat us." So Crayfish asked the others to help him stop Eel. "It's not our problem," they said. "Everyone has to look after themselves." "No," said Crayfish. "They helped you and you should help them back too." The crayfish were surprised. They had never heard of animals looking out for one another, but they had to admit that it sounded like a pretty good idea. "But what can we do?" one of them asked. "We have to work as a team," said Crayfish. "Follow me." Crayfish led them up the side of the shipwreck and started snipping at the rope holding the ship's anchor. All the other crayfish joined in too. Just before the rope snapped, Crayfish called out to the anchovies. "Swim under me!" he said. As they swam under the anchor, Crayfish snipped the last piece of rope and the anchor came crashing down on Eel. The anchovies and crayfish rejoiced together and all became firm friends. And from that day on, everyone on the reef looked out for each other.